Before we deconstruct the terrifying neurological collapse currently destroying your workforce operational capacity, I have exactly three critical questions for you to answer in the comments below. Number one, are you currently forcing your elite operators into spatial computing headsets for multiple hours a day, completely blind to the biological friction and sensory overload you are inflicting on their nervous systems? Number two, do you understand the mathematical difference between the high fidelity digital collaboration and catastrophic productivity drain of phantom fatigue? Number three, when your top tier talent begins resigning because their cognitive bandwidth is shattered by synthetic environments, do you possess the structural blueprint to revert to a biological sustainable workflow? Let me know your answers. I'm Dr. HR and I approach the global labor and capital market not with emotional comforting advice but as a cold structural algorithmic system. I hold a PhD in human resources, a master's from prestigious Tata Institute of Social Sciences TISS in Mumbai, and a bachelor's in computer engineering. Operating on the ground here in Dubai since 2010, consulting for tier 1 corporate entities, sovereign wealth funds, and apex tech founders across the Middle East and Indian subcontinent, I have monitored exactly how global talent is leveraged and how it is mathematically destroyed by the corporate negligence. The market does not reward you for adopting a toxic technology just because it is new. It rewards you for protecting the absolute sovereignty of human output. We were promised a revolution in collaboration. The enterprise software giant sold the executive board a flawless vision of the future. Immersive digital twin, spatial computing boardrooms, and hyper-connected global teams interacting in real-time virtual reality. But instead of a revolution, we have entered an era of phantom fatigue. Your brain was not built to process the high-friction sensory overload of immersive presence of 8 hours a day. We are exposing the unsustainable mental tax of virtual off before it completely breaks your workforce. Before I completely dismantle the illusion of immersive corporate metaverse, expose the exact biological mechanics of phantom fatigue, and give you the precise architectural blueprint to protect your human capital from sensory collapse, hit the subscribe button and press the notification bell. I post daily videos showing you exactly how to navigate the global labor and capital market using cold, hard engineering logic. You do not want to miss these execution protocols. Stop strapping blindfold on your operator. Start engineering biological sustainability. Grab a notebook, it is time to audit the virtual matrix. Phase 1, the immersive illusion, the high-stakes narrative. We must first diagnose the exact debilitating technological trap that C-suites across Bangalore, Silicon Valley, and UAE has blindly walked into over the last 24 months. In the desperate race to innovate, they justify massive enterprise software budgets. Corporations deployed spatial computing and virtual reality VR headset to their remote and hybrid workforces. The narrative was intoxicating. We will eliminate the distance between our Dubai headquarters and our Mumbai engineering node. We will sit in the same virtual room. This is an immersive illusion. The executive looked at the digital avatars and assumed they had successfully replicated human physical presence. They completely ignored the biological interface. To the human nervous system, sitting in a virtual boardroom is not collaboration. It is a high-stress, computationally exhausting hallucination. When you mandate that your employees strap high-resolution screens millimeter away from their optic nerve and interact with synthetic representation of their colleagues, you're not increasing productivity. You are initiating a massive, invisible cognitive tax. The promise was seamless integration. The reality is phantom fatigue, a deeply psychological exhaustion caused by the brain's desperately trying to reconcile conflicting sensory inputs. Your top-tier operators are not burning out because the work is too hard. They are burning out because their hardware, their biological brain, is overheating while trying to process an artificial reality. If you do not audit this trap today, your enterprise will experience a catastrophic attrition wave, and you will lose your apex talent to competitors who still respect the physics of human biology. Phase 2, the biological friction of spatial computing. To understand why your department's output is crashing, we must decode the exact neuroscience of the virtual office. We must map the biological friction. Why is a 1 hour meeting in spatial computing exponentially more exhausting than 1 year meeting in a physical boardroom? Or even on a flat 2D screen? One, the Vergence-Accommodation Conflict. In the physical world, when you look at a colleague across the table, your eyes converge, point toward the subject, and accommodate focus the lens at the same exact physical distance. In a spatial computing headset, the digital avatar appears to be 10 feet away. But the actual light is being emitted from a screen half an inch from you. Your brain is locked in a continuous subconscious battle, attempting to resolve this psychological impossibility. This requires massive computational bandwidth. The micro-expression void. Human communication is deeply algorithmic. We process thousands of biological micro-expressions, a subtle shift in pupil dilation, a micro-tension in the jaw, the ambient rhythm of breathing. In a virtual environment, even with the advanced face tracking, these signals are synthetically smoothed over or entirely missing. Your amygdala constantly searching for these primal trust signals and finding nothing but synthetic approximations triggers a low-level continuous state of biological anxiety. Let us look at the mathematical reality of the cognitive load. The phantom fatigue equals to synthetic energy input plus missing biological telemetry, neurological processing capability. When the numerator expands infinitely due to immersive environment, the biological capacity shatters. The human brains was simply not built to process this high-friction sensory overload for extended periods. When you force a developer or a financial analyst to spend 6 hours a day in this matrix, their cognitive reserves are drained to zero before they even execute a single line of code or build a single evaluation model. Phase 3. The value stream mapping the virtual matrix. As an HR executive or a corporate strategist, you must stop listening to the software vendor and start applying cold industrial logic to your workflow. We must apply Lean Six Sigma and value stream mapping to the virtual office. In Lean Six Sigma, the ultimate objective is to ruthlessly eliminate muda, the waste. Any step in the process that consumes resources but creates zero value for the end customer. Let us map the value stream of a mandatory 2-hour spatial collaboration session between your Dubai marketing node and your European logistics team. Waste of motion, the physical discomfort, the headset calibration, the boundary setup. Waste of processing, the sheer mental overhead of managing an avatar, monitoring synthetic eye contact, and navigating virtual menus. Waste of defect, the communication breakdowns by latency, glitching audio, and lack of physical whiteboard immediacy. When you map the stream, the data is terrifying. The actual value-added time, the moments where pure, unfiltered intellectual capital is being exchanged, is completely suffocated by the non-value-add time or managing the immersive technology itself. You're paying the elite operator massive tax-free UAE salary only to force them to spend 40% of their operational bandwidth fighting the software designed to help them. The traditional oversight metric fails here because the HR dashboard in Oracle SCM only tracks the hours logged. It does not track the depth of the cognitive depletion. Phase 4. The Talmundo catastrophe, the onboarding failure. We must explicitly apply this to the most vulnerable operational layer in your company, the acquisition and integration of new talent. Look at your employee onboarding process. Many Tier 1 corporations recently transitioned their onboarding protocols to fully immersive virtual environment. They load the new hire into the platform, hand them a headset, and drop them into a virtual replica of a corporate campus. This is a catastrophic HR failure. When a new operator joins your firm, their primary objective is to establish psychological safety and integrate into the high-trust biological tribe. They need to understand the localized culture, the unwritten rules of the office, the operational cadence of their manager. If you filter that entire onboarding experience through a synthetic spatial computing matrix, You completely isolate the employee. A digital high five in a virtual room generates zero biological trust. Instead of accelerating their time to productivity, you have initiated day one with phantom fatigue. They leave their first week feeling disoriented, disconnected, and deeply apathetic to the corporate mission. If you're using advanced HR platforms to route your talent, you must use those systems to engineer physical, biological touchpoints, not to force them deeper into the sensory void. Phase 5, the sovereign spatial architecture, the execution protocol. We have diagnosed the immersive illusion, exposed the biological friction of phantom fatigue, and mapped the catastrophic waste in your corporate value stream. The final phase is your immediate execution blueprint. If you're an Apex leader, an HR director, or a sovereign operator, how do you fix this? You do not ban the technology, you constrain it. You must deploy the sovereign architecture. Step 1. The 45-minute absolute boundary. You must establish a hard algorithmic ceiling on immersive collaboration. Spatial computing is a highly effective tool for reviewing a 3D architecture model or interacting with the complex digital twin of a supply chain. It is a lethal environment for a generic status update. You mandate that no employee is permitted to spend more than 45 continuous minutes inside a spatial headset. After 45 minutes, the biological friction curve goes exponential. You treat the virtual office like a hyperbaric chamber. You use it to targeted high-intensity operations, and then you extract the human immediately. Step 2. Asynchronous dominance. You must aggressively pivot your corporate culture away from real-time synchronous presence. The ultimate luxury in 2026 is not sitting in a virtual room together. It is a cognitive freedom. You use your internal systems to enforce asynchronous communication. Elite operators do not need to look at a synthetic avatar to build a financial model. They need a text-based brief, a secure data repository, and an absolute silence. You only deploy the spatial computing grid when raw, real-time 3D synthesis is mathematically required. Step 3. Mandate the biological baseline. If your team is distributed across the India-UAE tech corridor, you do not bridge the gap with more screen time. You bridge the gap with physical capital. You take the budget you were going to spend on advanced enterprise VR licenses and you use it to fly the core engineers from Bangalore to Dubai once a quarter. You put them in a physical room, you let them share a meal. You allow the biological micro-expression to calibrate. You build the high-trust tribal foundation in a physical world. So when they return to the asynchronous nodes, the trust sustains itself without the need for a synthetic spatial substitute. Step 4. Broadcast your biological sovereignty. Once you have eradicated the phantom fatigue from your department, you must force the global labor market to recognize your structural advantage. You step into your acoustic-treated digital studio. You deploy your elite Cineline gear, your Sony FX series camera with a razor-sharp cinematic lighting. You import the data mapping your team's increased output and reduce attrition rate into DaVinci. You record a highly structured, unsentimental video essay. You deconstruct exactly how you abandoned the toxic, always-on, immersive metaverse, implemented strict cognitive load limits, and restored absolute uninterrupted flow state to your engineers and strategists. You broadcast this artifact directly to the high agency talent pool across the global market. When an Apex operator watches that broadcast, they see a sovereign voice. They see an executive who understands human biology, who protects their cognitive bandwidth, and who refuses to sacrifice their nervous system to a software vendor hype cycle. They will desert their exhausted headset-wearing corporate prison to join your high-velocity node. Look closely at the technology mandate you are enforcing today. Look at the blank, exhausted stares of your team when they remove the hardware. You cannot out-engineer human biology. The 2026 global economy rewards the operator who respect the absolute limit of a human machine. Smash the immersive illusion. Audit the cognitive tax. Implement the sovereign spatial architecture and build an environment that amplifies human intelligence rather than slowly suffocating it in the dark. Process the data, execute the strategy, and I will see you at the top.